Whispers of love. I fell for my son's teacher. At 55, I thought I had already lived through the big moments. Marriage, motherhood, heartbreak, and healing. I had settled into a quiet life, where my days were spent between running my small home business and caring for my teenage son, Michael. Life was peaceful, maybe too peaceful. Sometimes the silence in the evenings echoed louder than any storm. But everything changed the day I met Mr. Daniel Carter, my son's high school literature teacher. Started on a Wednesday. Michael, my son, had been struggling in class, and his teacher had requested a parent meeting. I walked into the classroom expecting another tired, middle-aged man in a sweater vest. But instead, standing there was someone who took me completely by surprise. He was in his early 40s, tall, confident, and radiating a gentle warmth that immediately disarmed me. His voice was calm, smooth, with a kindness that was rare. And his eyes. They weren't just focused on my son's grades. They studied me, lingered just a moment too long when we shook hands. I brushed it off, telling myself I was imagining things. But the way he smiled when I complimented the book collection on his shelf, the way his fingers gently brushed mine as he handed me the report, it stirred something deep inside me, something I thought had long gone silent. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying our conversation, his laughter, the softness in his eyes. I hadn't felt a spark like that in years. A week later I ran into him again, this time outside the school at a local bookstore. I was browsing through poetry collections when I heard his voice behind me. Looking for something romantic, he teased. I turned, heart skipping, and there he was, Daniel, holding a coffee, smiling as if we were old friends. We talked for over an hour that day. About books, life, loneliness. He mentioned how he'd been divorced for 3 years. I told him about raising my son alone. When we said goodbye, he gently touched my shoulder. "You have beautiful hands," he said, almost whispering. "I bet you give amazing massages." I laughed nervously, flattered and confused. Was he flirting? Or was I just too hungry for attention? But deep down I knew. He was flirting, and I was drawn to him. A few days later he sent me a message on social media. "Hey, I found that book you were looking for. Want to grab coffee?" It became our little ritual, coffee on Fridays. Sometimes in public, sometimes at my place. He loved sitting in my kitchen, sipping from the old floral cups I thought no man would ever touch again. And then one evening everything changed. He had come over to return a book. My shoulders were aching from a long day of work, and I rubbed them unconsciously. He noticed. "Let me help," he offered gently. "I used to give my ex massages when she had tension headaches." I hesitated, but then I nodded. He came behind me, his hands resting softly on my shoulders, moving in slow, circular motions. First it was innocent, but as his fingers moved lower, more deliberately, our breathing changed. My skin tingled. I leaned into his touch. "Is this okay?" he asked with low voice low. I turned my head slightly, our eyes locking. "Yes," I whispered. "It's more than okay." That night, the boundary between teacher and parent faded. His lips touched my neck, trailing soft kisses down to my shoulder. We didn't rush. It wasn't about lust. It was about discovery. Two souls who had carried silence for too long, finally finding sound in each other's touch. We made love that night. Slow, tender, and deeply emotional. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. Felt seen. Desired. Alive. In the weeks that followed, our connection only deepened. We would sneak small touches at school events, exchange secret glances during parent-teacher meetings. He once brushed his fingers against mine while handing me a permission slip, and my heart fluttered like a teenage girl's. We weren't reckless, but we weren't hiding either. There was a quiet thrill in it all. At my home, we'd spend hours talking on the couch, about poetry, about dreams we had forgotten. He would massage my hands gently as we listened to old jazz records. He told me once, "You've got the soul of a 25-year-old, and the strength of a warrior. He made me feel like I mattered again. But of course, love stories are never without shadows. Michael began to notice something. One day he asked, "Why do you smile every time you talk to Mr. Carter?" Froze. I couldn't lie. But I couldn't tell the truth either, not yet. So I said, "Because he's kind. He listens." That's rare these days. Michael nodded, suspicious but silent. Eventually Daniel and I knew we had to decide. Keep this hidden or let it breathe. We chose truth. One sunny afternoon we sat Michael down. I held his hand tightly. My heart raced. "Sweetheart," I said, "I need to tell you something about me and Mr. Carter." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he looked at Daniel. "You too?" he said, eyes wide. We nodded. He was quiet for a while. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. "Well, he's kinda cool," he shrugged. "Just don't kiss where I can see it." We laughed through tears. And in that moment everything felt right. Today, a year later, Daniel and I are still together. He still massages my shoulders when I'm tired. Still reads me poetry on rainy evenings. And every time he looks at me, I feel beautiful. Not because of my age or despite it, but because love sees beyond all that. I never expected to fall in love with my son's teacher. But I did. And it's the most beautiful chapter of my life. Because sometimes the heart writes its own lesson plan. And love, no matter where it begins, always deserves a chance to be heard. This is what happened in my life. It is beautiful, yes. Please put your suggestion on the comment section. I read and consume each of it. If you believe love has no age limit, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this.